Jack Kennedy constantly tries to hunt down the Geerling Kawasaki, and Ben Currie constantly thwarts him.
You know, I think we were on the podium every, like 19 races or some crazy thing like that, out of 24.
And it's Currie who takes the lead.
Go back home to Australia 3 months and train my ass off, and then come back in the new year and be ready to go and know exactly what to expect, and hopefully hit the ground running and be ready for round one.
We really built that relationship with Kawasaki quite strong, where, you know, the guys at Kawasaki, Team Green Racing, I managed to get promoted to the Superbike class after a couple of really strong years. And I essentially moved into the championship winning team that won it the season before with Leon Haslam. You know, one of the biggest names in Superbike racing. It's not that often that, you know, the runners-up in British Supersport gets promoted to the #1 seat in the Superbike class as a rookie. To be rewarded with that is pretty amazing, but it shows, you know, the loyalty, and you do good for a brand like Kawasaki and they will reward you with, you know, a really good ride in where everyone aspires to be in the Superbike class. You know, straight away, the expectation, the workload for a Superbike rider just completely changed. I remember at round 1, I literally, you know, finished warm-up. I went straight from the garage to the hospitality unit and I did a talk with all, 100 odd guests. I went straight, you know, I'm still in my gear. I went straight from the hospitality unit in my gear to another hospitality suite, and then I had to go do a signing on pit lane, so I had to go and get my gear off. Literally ran to the signing because I was late, so signed posters for an hour or an hour and a half or whatever it was, you know, and that was where I was like, what just happened? Like, that was my first race weekend. You know, Friday, Saturday was pretty cool, but Sunday race day, it was just a blur. It was a complete blur, and I was a little bit overwhelmed, and that probably got the better of me, and I went out in the first race and crashed on the lap 2 or 3 after not so good of a qualifying. And then race 2, yeah, solid. It was like 12th, I think it was, in my first race that I finished, which I was really, really happy with. Like, I pictured racing professional motorbikes at the top level to just be living the dream, but that's, like I said, it's not the case. You know, you've got to do all those things. You know, they're super important, and I know how important they are, and I make sure that, you know, moving forward, that we prioritize that in the right way, so I can, you know, my racing can be still most effective, because that's just part of sport nowadays. But, you know, maybe that got the better of me a little bit this season, and round 2, still, you know, anxious and excited and wanted to beat everyone and was on top of the world. So I'm trying to race everyone in free practice 1, and I'm looking at my pit board and I'm thinking, here we go, baby, like, I've made it, you know, I'm at the top now. But in hindsight, that's free practice 1. Like, track's cold, you know, there's a long weekend ahead of you. So, you know, I tried to probably run before I walked, and I really did back myself that I could go right up to the front in round 2, and, you know, probably 10 o'clock in the morning, free practice 1 on the Friday of Alton Park. You know, I'm flying through the air and I'm thinking, shit, this is gonna hurt. And when I hit the ground, it hurt a lot, and I didn't get back up. And I knew something was really wrong laying on the side of the track.
The Friday in practice at Alton Park, when he had the big accident last year in 2019, I still remember we can't watch that live over here on the Friday practice because they don't televise that. So we were watching live timing, which is and listening to the commentary. So we heard he'd crash. He was going very well. He was actually running 6th on the track at that stage, so he was doing some pretty good stuff. We didn't know what happened, so we're on the phone, and Alton Park unfortunately has very bad telephone service. We couldn't get anyone, so we had no idea what was going on.
It's such a horrible feeling when you're watching live your son crashing, and then you can't get any news because there's no reception at the track, and it takes like 10 minutes are like 2 hours really.
We started panicking, ringing everyone we could, ringing Kirsty, his girlfriend. We finally got her, and she was in the medical centre with him. She started explaining what's going on. The next time we heard anything, he was in the ambulance heading to the hospital. By that time, we knew something was broken, that's for sure. We were panicking because we didn't know how bad. We didn't really get much information. We were getting second and third hand information. So for parents, it wasn't the nicest feeling at all.
And like I say, I tried to run before I could walk, and I paid the price big time. It wasn't even lunchtime, and I'm laying in hospital in Stoke. You know, it's arguably the most important season of my life, stepping up into Superbike, what we've been working for, you know, my whole career basically to get to, what everyone sort of strives to get to. And the doctor comes in the hospital room a couple of days later after assessing all the damages from x-rays and stuff like that, and he comes in and he's got this attitude, and he's like, you know, what sort of dickhead crashes a motorbike at 140 kilometers an hour, 11 o'clock on a Friday morning, you know, when there's people in here suffering from all sorts of diseases that could do with his help, or traumatic car accidents or something like that, you know, like I must be the most disrespectful little shit on planet Earth. That's the attitude he had when he came in. And he comes in and he tells me sort of the bad news story, and I said to him, like I said, look, when do you reckon I can get back on the bike? And his exact words to me was, I don't want to piss on your bonfire, but you're going to have wires hanging out the bottom of your feet for 6 months, and then it'll probably be another 6 months before you could walk properly.
To be honest with you, even when the diagnosis come through to Ben, we weren't there. He was playing it down to us. I've since learnt that. And I don't think he even knows that now that I know that. He was playing it down to us to try and make us feel a bit more, a bit happier, or not happier, but a bit more comfortable about the situation.
It was at that point that my heart sunk, and I thought, you know, this is the end of my career because I can't miss 12 months. Yeah, sure, maybe we could, you know, move that back a little bit and maybe 10 months, but, you know, miracles don't occur.
It wasn't until we started speaking to his girlfriend, once everything settled down, and a couple of friends we know who were in the hospital, and a few other people, that we found out the severity of it. Yeah, I was going to get on a plane at one stage, then I wasn't, and Ben was telling me there's no need to, everything's fine, it's not that bad, and we were confused. It was a confused family.
So I'm thinking, you know, I'm in trouble now, and I felt like it was all over right there and then. I thought, I finally made it to the top of BSB, British Superbike Championship. I finally made it to the top level, and now it's all been taken away from me. He
was up and down. He was really up and down. One day he was happy, smiling, talking normal. The next day you couldn't get 2 words out of him. So it was very much a roller coaster ride for his mental state, that's for sure. And that's something we were really concerned about, because we know what this motorcycle racing means to him, and we know where he wants to go with it. And yeah, we just didn't know what to think at the time.
And I was really quite low. I thought, you know, all the hard work and sacrifices that my family have made over these years was for nothing, because we got there for 5 minutes and it was all taken away from me. you know, to cut a long story short, we managed to get that process down from a year to 6 months to 2 months down to 7 weeks. So I was back ready in my mind in 7 weeks.
The speed he come back at worried us. We were actually telling him not to ride. Again, he was playing, I believe, that down. So we had faith that getting on the bike was the right decision. His girlfriend, Kirsty, was incredible. She supported him 120%, done everything for him, and mothered him for the 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it was.
And my surgeon says, like, I wouldn't do it, but your foot's gonna hold up. It'll be fine. And that was enough for me. I thought, yeah, great. Because if I wait any longer, you know, that's another weekend lost, another weekend of experience lost. That's another weekend somebody else is in my seat and has the opportunity to prove themselves. You know, my contract's for 1 year, so I need to get back as soon as possible because I need as much time as I can to prove my worth, and it's not been a good start.
Damage limitation with Ben. That's why I didn't do the warm-up this morning. Just wanted to save his foot for the races.
My foot's starting to deteriorate a lot. It's starting to open up again, the wound, and the infection's starting to build again. So I'm on the antibiotics now, which is knocking me around a little bit.
I managed to pick up an infection in my foot, in the wound, and I got cellulitis, and my leg was starting to go red. So I was in a bit of trouble. And I was chilling out in my caravan, and I'm early in this dose of antibiotics, and I'm sitting there, and I was in the most excruciating pain in my stomach. I didn't know what was happening. Like it was like my stomach was eating itself, and my girlfriend was next to me, and I'm like dry reaching, you know, like 2 o'clock in the morning outside of the caravan, literally trying to throw up because I was in so much pain. Literally no sleep whatsoever.
See, Ben's been struggling with injury. I thought he was fit enough to come back. He's got a real bad infection on the top of his foot, on the crown of it, and he just can't change gear. Unfortunately, he's almost ruined a gearbox because of poor changing. He ran on, and it's dangerous to him and other riders. So we've withdrawn him from this race, and we really hope he can get better for Thruxton.
Like, I put myself back now a couple of weeks in sort of, you know, the process of rehabilitating, and then I picked up another infection. So I picked up MRSA, which is a super bug, and it's really not good. MRSA is really not a good thing. It was 50-50 whether I was to ride again. The team didn't want me to ride, and anyway, after a big saga, I managed to was able to ride that weekend. We went racing, and probably not a good idea in hindsight again. On antibiotics, really sick all weekend, and the wound was pretty raw.
It's been such an uphill struggle, to be honest, and we've got a few weeks now to recoup, and if I can come back fitter, I'm sure we can just keep making progress because it's starting to click now. It's just been a hard road to get there.
And then from that sort of weekend onwards, it started to get better, and I started to get myself going again and started to move through the season, but never really got going again.
If I can get a start like I did in the last race and move myself up to 12th, which is what I was running, not make any mistakes like last time, try and get away with those guys, I'm confident we can finish another points finish and hopefully closer to the top 10. That's my plan. If I can crack a top 10, then I feel like it's, you know, that's the goal. That's job done for this weekend. So it's been building nicely, so we just got to keep going.
You know, although I didn't win, didn't get podiums, the lessons I learned were really important, and really important for this season as well. Moving into 2020, I can take all that on board, and I will not make those mistakes again in the future, that's for sure. And I think, you know, what's happened last season is not a negative, it's only a positive. It's because that's taught me so much, and what it, you know, what it actually requires to become, you know, the best, the champion. You know, it's no one in sport that just has that perfect climb to the top. It's going to be a bumpy road, and it's how you bounce back from that and how you take those lessons. A lot of people quit, a lot of people fizzle out, get burnt out, but I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to use that to fuel the fire and come back really strong.
It's extremely special to get him back here. It's us being parents again, I guess.
He has always trained, but this time he stepped it up.
You know, this is just pure hard work and passion for what I do. My only goal this season is to become the champion. It's as simple as that.